Security is incredibly tight this morning. We actually had a little bit of trouble getting to our station. I had to walk about a kilometer or so to actually get to my driver this morning because one of the checkpoints that they set up in the city wouldn't let him through. There are checkpoints everywhere in almost every neighborhood, along the highways. They are trying to make sure that as many people can go to the voting booths as possible, and unless you have special passes, you can't move around. We ended up getting to the final checkpoint before we got here this morning, and we ended up having to wait for about 10 or 15 minutes. There were several other journalists that were there in cars. There were at least 9 other cars and groups of journalists that were waiting to get through, everyone trying to get to the voting polls this morning in order to be able to file a report. So, the security has been incredibly tight, and that was actually their intention in order to make sure that no one can get through that would be interested in harming voters.
Do we have any idea in the run-up to this what the result might be?
It is hard to say. There have been so many candidates. There are nearly 7,000 candidates that are running across the country. Now, certainly the current Prime Minister, Haider al-Abadi, is running. The former Prime Minister, Nouri al-Maliki, there has been some talk that he actually has favor among a number of even former security forces, as well as a number of the various groups around the country. So there is a chance that he could win. Abadi actually has an edge, though, because he has been in leadership during the defeat of Daesh. There's also a lot of other candidates, though, that are running that are brand new faces around the country. And so it really is a situation where we just aren't really sure, because it's going to be based on whether or not the parties, there are nearly 32 parties, whether or not they're going to be able to fill the seats to have the most influence and be able to create a coalition government out of it.
In so many countries, there's a feeling that the political elite in power are only out for themselves. And in Iraq, there is a certain sense among some that nothing will change despite the hope that there is for these elections. How widespread is that feeling of pessimism?
It's actually quite widespread, especially among displaced people, because these are people who have been away from their homes for months, if not years, and they've received no compensation, or at least they say they've received no compensation from the government, no visits from the government to be able to go home and rebuild their life. And so there is a lot of discouragement among people on the streets. There's a lot of discouragement among displaced people that nothing is going to change. I've definitely heard a lot of people who aren't going to vote, who just aren't interested, who think that the same people who've been in power for nearly a decade are not going to make a difference for them. There's a lot of people who still say that they want to leave because they have no life here. So there's a lot of frustration, widespread, I think, across the country during these elections.